Ladies and gentlemen, it is about that time, and it is time for a Salty Saturday. My name is Brasky, and I am going to be joined by Rebobson here in just a minute. And tonight, we are going to have a fantastic matchup for you. Just one matchup, but it is a good one. It is part of the finals of SHL. And, of course, my counterpart with me is Rebobson, all the way over in the Netherlands. How you doing, my friend?
Hello! I am doing wonderfully, man. It's been an interesting week.
That it has been. It's been. We got the first round of THL playoffs going on. If anyone was watching Friday Night Fight, you got to see wonderful misplays all around from some guy called Brasky. It was certainly
some guy.
Yeah, some dude.
Behold, certainly something to behold.
It got a little messy. I blame the animations of Priest. That is what I do.
Everyone blames the animations of Priest. They're pretty long. But sometimes you just got to play Mind Blast.
That's true. And you need to have enough time to throw the card out before the timer runs out on you.
And sometimes they just top deck bone there immediately after.
True story. True story. But regardless, we tonight here for Salty Saturday in THL, we won't have THL for you tonight. It's going to be SHL. And SHL, of course, is a last hero standing league, which has been going on. And, of course, its finals are this weekend. And those finals are going to be fantastic. We have a great matchup. Rebobson, what is that matchup tonight?
So tonight we've got Seohyun of the Tiny Fin Fan Club, who's up against Anamor. Anamor? I don't really know how you say that.
Yes, that's how you say it.
Okay. And Anamor is of sexy hombres in Texas.
That's right. These are the last two teams standing in SHL. Now, SHL, of course, runs last hero standing format. Rebobson, for those who might only be familiar with THL, which is a conquest-style format where you have 4 classes each with bans, and then you play until if your deck loses, you can keep going. You just have to win once with each deck. Last hero standing, a little bit different.
Yep. So last hero standing is essentially just the exact opposite of Conquest. So a deck is not knocked, whereas in Conquest, a deck's knocked out if you win with it. At last hero standing, a deck is knocked out with you when you lose with it, which puts a little bit of extra strategy in that you need to build your decks to be able to beat all of their decks in at least some degree. Like Conquest, you can maybe target one of their classes, just go after that, and know that you'll get the win eventually. Whereas last hero standing, if you have like one deck which is really weak against one of their other decks, then they can just counter Q you and just hammer it.
That's very true. You know, that's the thing about last hero standing format is that you sometimes see a lot. You either see a lot of sweeps or you see a lot of 3-2s because it's one of those things. If you win with a deck, it's make it take it. You win that deck, you just keep rolling with that deck until it is done. So now we get to see how the strategy plays out. You see a lot more counters in this, and so tonight we have seohyun versus Anamor. And this is a matchup which is going to be very interesting because we have, for seohyun, he's got Druid, Priest, Rogue, and Warlock, and Anamor is going to be rolling with Druid, Mage, Priest, and Rogue. So the standouts to me right now are the fact that Anamor's got Mage in his lineup, and then we see kind of a Druid, Priest, Rogue, Warlock, which is kind of the standard 4 for LHS. Is that Mage, usually in LHS, are you thinking this is more of a control freeze type build right here?
Honestly, I've really got no idea what that mage could be. It's all going to come down to what Anamor decides to ban. That'll give us a lot more information about what he's brought. If he bans the druid, then I think we can think that might be a kind of control mage going after the rogue and the warlock. Whereas if, say, the priest is banned, then it might be a kind of more burn mage, which is just going after the rogue mostly.
Yeah, the ban
priest just heals out of range of burn mage.
The ban strategies are certainly interesting in LHS. I think we saw a lot in DreamHack last week or a few weeks ago. We saw the fact that Rogue was just kind of in certain cases, it was just an instant ban. A lot of people were just taking Rogue out of the equation and targeting something else, and then other lineups would just take Druid out of the equation and go with something else on that. So it's kind of, when you built your decks, you need to have a diversity. You need to have like an aggro deck, a control deck. You need to have sometimes like a mid-range deck. You need to be able to do well in multiple types of deck strategies.
Yeah. Well, it's like the prevalence of Druid and Priest has made like pretty much every other control deck pretty much obsolete. So I'd be very surprised to see a control mage when with both of those classes just so prevalent. But I wouldn't be surprised. The other alternative mage it could be was if we saw when the rogue or the warlock banned, then we might even be seeing a secret mage here.
That's true. Secret Mage definitely has its place in this format. It's just one of those things where sometimes Secret Mage can also be countered a little too readily. You know, you want to see sometimes if you can pilot those control-y type decks well, then you feel good about your odds about possibly just sweeping a series. And you know, if you bring Rogue for that reason as well, Tempo Rogue is just it doesn't have any amazingly poor matchup. It has the ability just to sneak out a win against almost any deck possible.
Absolutely. Oh, I've got word that we have the bans in.
All right. So what are the bans that we have right now?
And it is a rogue ban for everyone. Miracle Rogue.
So we have a double rogue ban from both sides here. What does that tell you about these lineups?
Right. So that makes me think that this mage is aggressive. First thing. I think that means that both players are going after the druid and the priest.
Yeah, that definitely is the right way to go. I mean, if you're going to target, you have the ability, which is interesting enough, you have the ability to target two classes like this because druid and priest really are the meta standards right now. As they go, the meta shifts and ebbs and flows with how those classes do. And so when you ban rogue out, you have the ability to finally kind of target each of those two decks.
Well, plus the thing is, while druid and priest being like the two most prevalent classes in competitive Hearthstone, at least, possibly not ladder, they both have very similar weaknesses. They're both weak to the same kind of decks, even the same minions in most cases. So if you have a deck which can target one of them well, then you can target both of them. And when that's like almost 50% of the competitive meta, then you often feel quite comfortable out targeting just druid and priest
And
as a whole.
The thing about LHS too is, you know, I mean, Jade Druid and Razaka's Priest, if those are the two decks that these players are bringing, they don't do well against vertical pressure. If you have one or two really good-sized minions, those decks can struggle with those big minions, which leads me to think, do you go with a more high-rolly style deck that has the potential to do 3-0 sweeps? Do you think we will see a big Druid or big Priest out of here?
I think there's going to be at least one of each. Possibly, I feel like we might be seeing some big mirrors. To be honest, the big decks have like grown hugely in popularity in competitive Hearthstone, purely just because they're good against Jade and they're good against Razakus, and both of them are kind of good against both of them. So like you're in a kind of position when you go into a match. Like, if I don't bring a big deck, am I just putting myself at a disadvantage because the other person might be bringing a big deck?
And let's not forget that there was Hesky for Life was kind of gotten some notoriety in Vicious Syndicate for even having a big warlock, a big control warlock. He put Bright-Eyed Scouts into a warlock deck with a bunch of removal and then tossed like Alex Straza and Yisharj and all of these other huge minions. And it's a meme, but still did relatively well on the legend ladder with easy big control lock. Like, it was, I will say this, I'm going to be climbing the ladder with it. I know that.
Honestly, it's funny you mentioned that. I've had today. I streamed for the first time ever, and Lefty, one of our THL SHL participants, came in the chat and recommended that I play Easy Big Easy Log. He recently posted a list for it somewhere, so I thought I'd check it out. It's actually really good.
It
shouldn't work. It should not work.
Yeah,
but it
is much like a Build-A-Beast. It just should not be. It should not exist in its current incarnation.
It turns out that Defile is just that good.
Right. That should let you know.
A warlock deck with mostly 8 drops work. All you need is Defile.
if you put Medivh, Lich King, Alexstrasza, Jiraxis, and then like a bunch of twisting others, if you put nothing but that in, as long as you have Defile, you have a shot.
Oh, and maybe like a Despicable Dreadlord or two.
Very true.
That card also deserves a lot of credit.
So maybe we'll see the Tiny Finn fan club and say maybe he will bust out, just go big all across the board and just make all of our dreams come true. Well, in the meantime, Rebobson, you could let them know that they can start at any moment. And we are going to get started with this matchup in the SHL Finals. It is going to be a fantastic one. So SHL Finals, of course, between the Tiny Finn fan club and the Sexy Hombres of Texas. But the score right now of Tennessee, and Texas. Basically, the Sexy Hombres just dominate the South, is what they do. The score currently is 9-8 with Tiny Finn fan club up by a single point. So seohyun has the chance to really solidify, maybe even close out the finals. If he goes 3-0 right here, even 3-1 would mathematically close out the finals as well. So we could see the champions of SHL crowned tonight and kind of forego that 5-seed matchup between Rogue JT and G-Kick. So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go, and really excited for this matchup. These are two fantastic players.
Absolutely. So they are within 2 PR of each other. Anamor's 498 versus seohyun's 500, because they're both pretty much at the maximum you can be. So these are both two very top players. And I think it's worth mentioning, if anyone is confused as to why 3-1 would close out the series when it's still mathematically possible for Rogue JT to tie up the scores entirely, but that's the case, because Tiny Finn Fan Club would have won 3 matches to 2 on an equal point score. That would be the deciding factor.
That's true. There are a lot of different tiebreakers that you can find. The most simple one, of course, is just match victories as well. You know, the tiebreakers never seem to be interesting to me unless it's the end of the regular season. Then you start looking at every single tiebreaker that could possibly exist, especially after that purple division of THL.
Good old purple.
It's like
I miss it already.
The tiebreaker was like individual matchups, and then after individual matchups, you have to go by point spreads. Then you go by certain seeds, and then you have a 3-legged sack race to decide the winner after that.
I thought it was an egg and spoon race. They must have changed the rules.
You know, well, they'll do an egg and spoon with a bat spin, and then after that, then you do the wheelbarrow race and go from there. Looks like they are ready to roll, so we are going to find out the first match of the SHL Finals between seohyun and Anamor.
Let's get to it. So we've got Anamor on the Druid versus seohyun on the Priest.
Malfurion versus Anduin.
Whoa.
Druid Priest.
Bring victory. I must protect.
It doesn't appear to be Druid Priest as we know it.
No, it does not. So already we see Anamor busting out the aggro token Druid right here. He's going to go full aggressive right now. As you can see, he takes out that rogue. He really is targeting that Druid and Priest. He's expecting them to be the slower versions of themselves. And we see with Priest right now, that is an Inner Fire. That is a Cabal Talon Priest. This seems to me to be, is this just a straight up Silence Priest?
I saw a Dragonfire mulliganed away, so I think this is Mitsuhide's OTK Dragon Priest.
Ah, the OTK Dragon Priest. It's very much... Dragon Priest did not die with all the dragons that they lost, but it just kind of morphed. There's not a lot of dragons in the deck, but the hope is that you can remove pieces and then eventually get one big, fat-butted minion down, build them up, and then just OTK them down with, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire.
Well, the glorious thing about Divine Spirit Inner Fire is no one ever sees it coming. You're just sitting pretty at like 20 health, and then suddenly they go Radiant Elemental, Shadow Visions, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, and suddenly you're dead.
And it's so hard to play around in that fact. You're sitting there, you know your opponent has 5 cards in hand, or even 3 cards in hand, and you have to wonder, what are those cards in hand? They haven't touched them for a while. Are those the 2 combo pieces? Do I try to make a value trade and just remove as many minions as possible, or do I have to start pushing the clock? And so already, Anamor gets that great drop early with the Enchanted Raven, which he can then turn into something really nice. He doesn't necessarily have the smoothest 2-drop. He can play Power of the Wild for a token if he wants to, but I'm sure he would much rather pull, something like a Mark of the Lotus that he can play with a Bloodsail Corsair.
Oh yeah. See, it's all going to come down to what Anamor top decks here. The Druid runs a lot of 1-drops. There are a lot of things which would be amazing here.
And
so
early on,
here just taking his time.
Yeah, I'm looking at a rope burned down all the way from seohyun, so I'm wondering if he unfortunately has a disconnect. going on right there. You just let the rope burn down completely. So we're going to check in to see what that is. Of course, under the rules of the league, if there is a disconnect, you have to play out the turn as normal, as if the person has not disconnected yet. But if you are on the opposing
he says he
side,
has not disconnected.
he has not disconnected. He just ran it all the way down.
Yeah.
Normally, when a player disconnects, you have to play out the game as normal, but it is kind of it is common courtesy to also rope your turns to give them a chance to kind of jump back in. So already, seohyun, he plays. Look at this. He sits there. He ropes the first turn. Maybe he goes AFK. Nope. He then comes down and has a great swing turn against an aggro druid, using that potion of madness to remove 2 minions from Anamor's side, and then he drops down a minion of his own, of course, the Northshire Cleric. So Anamor, he's going to drop down the South Sea Captain, which is going to shoot out a 2/2 patches, and he's going to start pushing face right there.
See, the thing is, Anamor has no idea what seohyun's playing. These are very conventional priest minions. However, this card is not in the lot of priest decks.
And now you
There's
have an
Inner
idea
Fire.
of what you're up against right here.
Yep. And now this 6/6 cleric is just almost completely shut Anamor out of the game.
That's true, and not a lot that Anamor can do. He can go wide on board, but these minions are going to go away pretty quickly. Are you going to drop the living mana to go super wide on board, or do you need that one huge minion, the Bittertide, to contest that 6/3?
I think it's very much going to come down to what sees here. So, not looking great.
Not looking great at all. Savage Roar comes down. The Bittertide Hydra are going to come down for Anamor. He needs that big, huge minion to start contest on the other side. But seohyun, he has plenty of options, and he looks like he's going to drop that Scale Bane, which is going to be a 5/5. It's going to buff something. But he's giving consideration to some other spots here. But it looks like seohyun, a fantastic opening hand for him. A great start with this Dragon Priest. If you're Anamor, what else do you have to do here besides maybe getting a Marquis Charge to draw some more things? I mean, there's not much you can do.
I think you go back in time and try and draw a buff card.
That's a good idea. We need to get back on these time machine things.
Yeah, this is a very bad spot, because one thing you don't want to be doing with Bittertide Hydra is trading with it. And that appears to be the only option that Anamor has right now.
Very true. So it looks like he's going to try and go super wide on the board right here. He's just going to push face. He realizes he's going to put seohyun on a clock. We can see where this goes. If, the right amount of minions get traded in, and he has enough mana to go Savage Roar, he could hopefully maybe run this down. But looking at this Tar Creeper, a taunt is really going to put a damper on this. Or fire, or Divine Spirit, I should say, to just kind of make this taunt minion sitting in front of your face.
Yeah, 5 mana Treants versus 1 Tar Creeper seems like a pretty fair trade to me.
So there is a 110 sitting right in the face of Anamor, and of course this 3/6 is gonna just start chopping down. It goes down, it puts all the way down to 5 mana, and look at this, it gets the buff as well.
He can play a Firefly.
He can play a Firefly.
And there is no way, so he can clear the Tar Creeper and the Northshire Cleric.
Anamor just
5/5 stays alive. You can't hero power, so
nothing else to do. There's nothing left but to listen to Owl City and just play a Firefly and just go with it.
That's a very 3 years ago reference.
It is
at least.
possibly even 8 years ago reference.
When was Fireflies? I can't even remember.
I don't know, but if you play your cards right, we might close out the stream with that song. I'm not exactly sure what the copyright materials are with that one. But in the meantime, it looks like that the token druid of Anamor goes down, which means he will no longer be able to play it. So you will notice as I put these kind of etchings down on the classes of the opposing player, you'll notice that I put the red line over the druid. That's because in Last Year Standing, once your deck loses, you can't play it anymore. And once you run out of decks to play, you've now lost the match. seohyun, on the other side, he has got that priest, and that priest, he has to play it again. So we know that the priest is coming from seohyun's side. Mage Priest on Anamor's side. How do you counter this kind of awkward off-meta deck?
That's a very good question. It depends a lot on what these mage and priest are. If this is a mage,
And it
Like a
appears to
secret
be,
mage?
It appears to be a secret mage. I don't think you have Kirin Tor and Cabal Crystal Runner unless you're running secrets in that deck.
Yeah, the Kirin Tor mage, your next secret cost 0, definitely implies that there are some secrets in the deck. As does the minion, which decreases by 2 mana every time you play a secret. Maybe he forgot to put them in.
Perhaps he did. Perhaps he did. I have been known to forget to put secrets in my secret mage deck.
Doesn't surprise me, Brasky.
I know. I like to make it difficult on myself. That's what we do.
You like to play the game on hard mode.
That's what I do, man. Yeah.
Play Rizaka's Priest, rope until wait until you have the rope.
Yeah.
Start
Play
playing your
Rizaka's
cards.
Priest. Forget how to do math. Disconnect from your client. Try to reconnect and play a Mind Blast. All those things happen all at once. It's because I like to make it challenging. In the meantime, seohyun, he doesn't want this game to be too challenging, so he drops a Northshire Cleric on turn 1. Anamor sees the ability of the value that card can get if it starts drawing cards, so he takes it out right away with a Frostbolt. Another Spite Historian. Look at that Twilight Drake. He can get a third Twilight Drake, or he can go for something in the long game. You think you take that Ysera for the late part of this game, or do you think you can close it out earlier than turn 9?
Yeah, see, the interesting part about playing Nether Spite Historian at this point in the game is Frostbolt is in every mage deck. He doesn't know what he's playing against. Like Frostbolt, Arcane Intellect, this could be a control mage.
Absolutely.
This could be a burn mage. This could be a secret mage.
And
He's got no idea.
And already, you look at that hand for Anamor. It wasn't really. He would have preferred that hand at the start, but this deck has the ability to make some good swing turns. And so a 4/6 is going to come down the Twilight Drake from seohyun. And so Anamor, he's wondering, he's going to keep developing stuff. He can drop that Arcanologist and still put up the front of a Freeze Mage and then wait to make that big swing turn.
Yeah. The thing is, just you know that this is now a divine, like an inner fire priest. So you're expecting things like divine spirit to come out as well. So Anamor is just thinking, I do not want to let that Twilight Drake live.
And that is now the second straight Twilight Drake. And unfortunately, if he kills this off somehow, he's going to see a third straight Twilight Drake after that.
Or perhaps a Curveball Scalebane, just to stay on curve.
Scalebane seems good.
Yeah, Scalebane's a pretty good card.
So the Mana Worm going to come down possibly here. He's going to try and set up something so he can swing the board his way. What's the play here right now if you're Anamor?
There are some things that he can do with, like, the Sorcerer's Apprentices. He can play Mana Worm, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Frostbolt, the Drake. Just play one Sorcerer's Apprentice and then play the Spellbender, which I think Spellbender is, like, quite a big card in this matchup. Like, if Spellbender grabs a Divine Spirit and then a Fire, any of that, then that is a huge hiccup in seohyun's plan.
That definitely, that might be the most valuable card in his deck right now. If he can play that Spellbender at the right moment, then he will really feel good about his chances.
Fortunately, obviously, I always not know this, but he definitely needed to play the Spellbender this turn.
Absolutely.
Because that Potion of Madness is going to do some work.
That's definitely gonna clean up a lot of this board, and he's not gonna have a lot
As well as
to
a
answer
Twilight
it.
Drake.
And here comes the third Twilight Drake. It's gonna be just another 4/6.
Yep. Although this is it's going to be a 4/6. There is going to be a Firelands portal next turn, most likely,
And now he's considering
because
where he
it will
wants
be
to go.
6 mana. Although it doesn't really have a very good target. So we shall see. Could be some secrets coming down.
Yeah, in that way, you kind of want to drop that 4/6. If he drops that Scalebane, it's going to die immediately.
Maybe that's a consideration. Like, obviously, once you've seen Mana Worm and Sorcerer's Apprentice, you know that there are 2 Firelands portals in the deck.
It's true. Obviously, this 2/3 needs to die in some way, shape, or form. That Mana Worm can make things go out of control really quickly. So that's what seohyun's going to do there. He's going to drop the third 4/6 in as many turns. He's going to start using Anamor's minions against himself, and now he's just sitting with that Firelands portal is going to come out, take out another dragon. Let's see what he gets from it. Oh man.
Maybe seohyun wants to Potion of Madness the bomb squad.
Maybe maybe he wants to, do a Brasky level of difficulty for his own deck. That might have been the absolute worst 5-drop he could have pulled. I can't think of a worse 5-drop. Hey, how about a 4th Twilight Drake?
Yeah, seems good. It's only going to be a 4/5 though, which is
Yeah.
going to play right into this other Firelands portal.
Boy, if you told me that we would see 4 Twilight Drakes in a row, that is 4 straight Twilight Drakes, man. You can't help but feel bad.
So this actually lines up quite nicely with Spellbender, Valet, Ping, clear everything except one Twilight Drake.
Yeah, and there's a counter spell, so still a lot of ways to deal with those Divine Spirit Inner Fire shenanigans at some point. But in the meantime, you're still behind on board. You're taking down some minions, but there's a lot of value still in seohyun's deck.
Quite a lot, although you've seen both Netherspite Historians now, so that is the main value generator now, besides, like, Lyra, probably in there somewhere. Oh, and the Spellbender's been triggered,
There comes the Spellbender.
although it does still draw Seohyun a card. It's just made a kind of annoying 1/5.
And it is a Dragonfire Potion, which obviously could come down right now and do 5 damage to face, but no, we're just going to drop down the Tar Creeper and start just removing more minions.
So, at this point, you've got to wonder, who does the long game favor more? Because I think... No, that's a pretty good mage minion. It really does. This might be the Dragonfire Potion turn, unless the Shadow Visions just gives a nice clean Shadow Word Pain here.
I wonder.
Yep. After the first Shadow Visions whiffed, he appears to be considering the Scalebane.
Scalebane, a decent enough pick, although the Scalebane does die immediately just to a pinged Berserker right there. So it'll leave you with a 2/3 and a 1/3, which isn't exactly putting a lot of pressure on your opponent.
No, this is what I mean about I'm not sure which deck really has more. I think it's going to come down to who draws card draw most. Like if Anamor draws like an Arcane Intellect soon,
Or a Bone Mare.
or a Bone Man. This thing with Secret Mage, there is no kind of set build.
Yeah.
It could be running any like Hydra in the fire slot. Could be running like the Burgly Bully and Antonidas thing. Could be running like a Pyroblast. Wow, he's
There we go. Floats 5 mana right there. And now Kirin Tor Mage come down, which is going to put out a free counterspell, which is going to be unfortunate for either of those cards if he drops a Dragonfire or a Shadow Visions. And there goes the Radiant Elemental. All of a sudden, Anamor, he's going to have a chance to put some pressure on right here. Now, seohyun, he's going to drop the Shadow Visions first to hit that counterspell, which will leave him a chance to drop that Dragonfire Potion and throw the board back over his way.
Yep. Really need that Arcane stack back. Archaeologist is a pretty good draw.
Decent enough. We'll thin out the deck even more to hopefully draw him, just give him the draw of the big cards that he needs. The more you can thin out the deck, the better your odds are of finding those cards you need in the end.
And he's elected not to play the counterspell. Which seems... Maybe he's thinking that he's going to keep it until there's like a high health minion that he's concerned about Divine Spirit.
Yeah, I mean, if you throw the counterspell out right now, what is the purpose? Like, what are you looking to actually counterspell right here with no minions on board for your opponent right now? But now the Cabal Talon Priest comes down, and you see a Power Word Shield for some card draw. Now the counterspell can start to counter something super important.
Ooh, and that is Lyra.
That is Lyra. That is a Cabal Crystal Runner, which is going to be free, but he has 7 mana to spend.
Yeah, and Anamor just appears to be out of gas here.
Simply, yeah.
So the turn where Seohyun just played nothing and just baited out that Dragonfire turned out to be pretty huge.
Yeah, and right now Anamor just not sitting. This is the thing about the Secret Mage deck. It wants to start fast. It wants to finish fast. It can run out of gas very, very quickly.
Yep. he hasn't drawn into any of the 5 drops, which I assume are there. There is the Bone Mare.
There's the Bone Mare, but it's just a little too late right now. You're probably you drop that down, make yourself a taunt, kill off a 5/6 with a 6/7. Not much else you can do.
Yeah, this has that left Anamor in the position just like, do you kill a Cobalt Scalebane or Lyra?
And when you kill the Scalebane, much like the 4 Twilight Drakes you saw, you might just see another Scalebane there. But it didn't matter, seohyun had lethal on board, and that takes out 2 decks of Anamor, so he loses the Mage now. He is no longer able to use that. seohyun on the potential of a 3-0 sweep.
Yep. So this leaves Anamor's Priest.
Just the Priest.
Now,
If
what
this
is the Priest?
That's true. What is favored here? If you're Rizaka's Priest or Big Priest, or maybe he's even rolling with like some Silence Priest or Dragon Priest, what's a favored matchup against this deck of seohyun?
I think the most favored matchup is probably the Mirror. This is a deck which exists to target Priest.
It does, and the one thing that Anamor's going to try and do, he's got Eternal Servitude, at which he throws away, so this is a big Priest.
Easy. Easy big, easy Priest.
I see a lot of sparkles coming on my side of the screen. I love some of these viewer glitches sometimes, which are always a good amount of fun.
They just liven up the whole experience.
Silence comes down, Shadow Visions, Obsidian Statue. Not a great opening hand if you are Anamor. In the meantime, another Northshire Cleric on turn 1 for seohyun.
Now, the Circle of Healing is very interesting, because that means Embrace the Shadows. What I was about to say. Now, Embrace the Shadows, Circle of Healing, is an interesting card, because it doesn't care about dragons.
At all.
And in this particular matchup, you're really concerned with dragons.
And that Eternal Servitude, it does enjoy a Silence every so often.
It does.
Silence can also be used on minions that have been buffed in many different ways. That Silence is going to be super important to see when and how Anamor uses that card.
Yep. We might even see it. Nope, gonna see the Tar Creeper now.
Tar Creeper comes down. Dragon Fire Potion is sitting there right now. Not going to be as hugely effective as it would be with the amount of dragons in seohyun's deck. He's just going to sit back and wait for his turn. He's just going to heal himself up and wait for the moment that he can try to make the right play to sweep the board and get those big minions rolling and start bringing them back to life.
Yep. Would have really liked top deck Barnes at that point.
Absolutely.
What is Big Priest without Barnes?
What is Big Priest without Barnes? And now we have Twilight Drake. That comes down. So a 4/5, a good amount of minions on the board right now. Not doing a huge amount of pressure, but still able to just kind of provide, just let them know that you're there and you can start putting some pressure down. That 4/5 is exactly what you want to do. You just want to say, hello, you don't have all the time in the world.
Yep. So, gonna see... What are we gonna see here?
Oh, he's targeting the Northshire right now with the Silence.
Oh, he's going for it.
Here comes the Embrace the Shadow into the Circle of Healing, followed by a ping off on that dragon. So it looks like he's going to remove almost all of the board for seohyun, leaving a 1/1 minion up. Cobalt Scalebane is at least going to create a bigger 1 health minion.
Yep, a nice 6/1. And there is another Embrace the Shadows.
There's another Embrace the Shadows. Shadow Word Death going to come down. Take care of that Scalebane. Anor's going to heal himself up. He's getting to the later stages of the game where, all of a sudden the Obsidian Statues, the Lich Kings, the Yshars, the later this game goes, I think the better you feel if you're Anamor.
Absolutely. You're not really that concerned by a 9/1 Tar Creeper.
And you're not really concerned with the fact that if seohyun's not developing big minions on his side, or at least doesn't have the potential to combo you down, you have to be mindful of your health total on that, because a 5/5 can become a 15/15 or a 20/20 rather quickly.
How does a 5/5 become a 15/15, Brasky?
With, I guess it would be a 16/16.
That rare card which which triples your health.
You play something that gets you dino size, and then you play some other small buffs on top of it, and then you enter fire and throw yourself into it.
So you Dynasize, then you Bone Mare, and then you play that 2-mana 2/1 guy.
Yes, precisely.
Ah, yes. That well-known combo.
I've seen stranger things. The one thing I think Anamor loves to see is Barnes, which is gonna throw out
Sarah.
That's gonna be a nice card to have.
Now,
Let's
if
see
this
what he
gives
gets from.
Sarah Awakens, Dream is actually really relevant in this matchup.
It does. You can bring Barnes back and throw him back out there if you want to. If your opponent buffs up a minion huge to a gigantic spot, you can just basically sap it right off the board.
Yep, I'm thinking more of the sap effect. So this is going to be a 14. No, this is lethal.
Is this lethal? That is lethal. There it is. Here comes the 3-0.
So that was a good.
Well played.
That's a
20-minute
28-28. And just like that, we have a 3-0. And that 3-0, guess what? Means that Tiny
it.
Finn Fan Club are the champions of SHL. Just like that. I mean, it took all of 20 minutes for sometimes these matches. If you have control decks left and right, these things can go on for upwards of 2 hours. But this was basically about a half-hour match to decide who the champions of SHL are. Just like that. I'm a little stunned by how quick that was. I mean, Rebobson, what the heck just happened?
Silent Priest just did some Silent Priest things. Dragon Priest even. Turns out Dragon Priest is pretty good.
Absolutely insane what happened there with seohyun. I'm going to see if we can get him in the broadcast booth to talk about this. The fact that he brought this deck and that it did so well, is this deck simply a last hero standing deck, or does this have some legs in something like a Conquest format?
If you want to beat Priest, I think it's definitely got legs. The deck is good. I was playing it on ladder a while back, and it's kind of nuts. The master at the moment is really weak to just Divine Spirit in the fire, because not that many people run taunts.
Yeah, no,
What
there's not a lot of taunts. There's not. I mean, when you have the ability to control bans and you can get rid of the matchups that you don't like, and that Dragon Priest, that OTK Dragon Priest, does have a lot of bad matchups. It's just one of those things where if you can control its destiny, it can just create 3-0 sweeps like that.
Yeah, that was just quite something. I don't think we were really expecting the match to be over this quickly.
No, I don't think anyone was. That was absolutely crazy. We just saw what happens with last hero standing. If you have a deck that does the right things at the right time, it can just sweep the entire world to you.
Yep. So that Dragon Priest was an inspired choice by seohyun. Anamor just had no counter to it whatsoever. I think the Secret Mage is probably the best bet, but that just ran out of steam. And once seohyun had successfully set up that Dragonfire potion, cleared the entire board, and baited the counter spell with the Shadow Visions, Anamor was pretty much done for the series, it turned out.
So let's talk a little bit about this deck. I'm going to load it up in the deck tracker right now. Most likely, we did not see a Deathwing in those 3 games we saw, so most likely we can assume that it was probably some version of Mitsuhide's Dragon Priest, correct?
Yep. So Mitsuhide, the Deathwing edition was one he made quite late on in the stream when he was playing it. Before that, it was just double Cobalt Scalebane, which was and we saw 2 Cobalt Scalebanes in seohyun's deck. So I guess it was just the early stream version.
Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, there's some other things that he might have done there. I know we saw Potion of Madness come out. It's possibly could have run 2 of those. The Mitsuhide deck runs 1 Shadow Word Death, 1 Potion of Madness, and then 2 of just about everything else. And you see Netherspite Historian along with Twilight Drake, Cobalt Scalebane, Draconoid Operative, and that's it for dragons, isn't it? I mean, essentially that's what, 8 dragons total?
Yeah. Wait.
Or actually, six dragons, because obviously Netherspite Historian is not a dragon.
No, Netherspite Historian is unfortunately not a dragon, although it does kind of cycle dragons.
It synergizes with, but even then, that's only 6 dragons in this deck, but it is still technically a Dragon Priest.
Yep. Dragon Priest only ever well, since Blackrock Mountain rotated out, it's only ever run 8 dragons at most.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pre nice Frozen Throne Dragon Priest ran like normally a Primordial Drake and a Ysera as like, and that was it. 8 dragons. Not that many dragons. And it didn't really normally run the Divine Spirit in a fire thing. But I mean, Twilight Drake is just the most obvious card to go with that.
I mean,
Twilight Drake is a pretty healthy guy.
Yeah, I mean, especially you never get the. It looks like in this deck doesn't usually build up a lot of card advantage, but you do end up getting those 4/4s, 4/5, 4/6 minions on turn 4 that one dominate priest and two are just very solid high value minions.
Yeah, Twilight Drakes are pretty hard to kill.
Pretty hard, pretty dang difficult to kill.
Especially if you're playing against a priest.
And it's surprisingly, the only thing that really does well against it is silence, but even then. That silence had to be used on something else. When we saw Anamor kind of go up against seohyun, there was just a board of annoying minions that had to be taken care of, and the next thing you know, a 28/28 just kills you in the face.
Those damn 28/28s.
How dare they?
I just hate being punched in the face by 28/28s.
Oh man, well there you go. This might have been the quickest Salty Saturday that I think I've ever been a part of. We only had one match tonight, and we were expecting this last year standing to be like possibly a 3-2 that goes well into the night. Instead, we have now crowned a champion for SHL this season, and it is the Tiny Finn Fan Club. The Tiny Finn Fan Club, of course, made up of the Fly Sly, seohyun, Arcane THL, Jasper, and G-Kick are the Tiny Finn Fan Club. The runners-up are the Sexy Hombres in Texas, which is D. Lineman, Anamor, Ridiculous Hat, Darkseed, and Rogue JT. Those names right there, those are names that have participated in both leagues that have a lot of history. Those are very good players on all sides. The series might be over, and we might have a champion be crowned already. But that didn't make it any less entertaining.
Yep, and let's not forget that there is still a match to play.
There is. Absolutely. There's that 5-seed matchup. And, of course, that 5-seed between G-Kick for Tiny Finn and Rogue JT for the Sexy Hombres in Texas. So if that goes 3-0, it looks like Sexy Hombres will still come up short, but it will keep them. It'll definitely be close. It'll be one of those things where, because both those teams kind of kept it close in their respective, like the amount of points that they put in and just how good those teams are. You look at the PR levels of those teams. They're each topped out by a couple of around 500 players, and then just kind of even themselves out all the way down.
Yep. Both, but the two top seeds between them have 1,998 PR.
Wow.
So that's a lot of PR between 4 players.
I'm going to reach out to seohyun here real quick to see if he wants to jump in the broadcast booth in the meantime. So, the thing that I want to talk Rebobson a little bit about is that Druid Priest Warlock lineup. If he brought that Priest, what do you think his other 2 decks were?
So, while banning Rogue and bringing the dragon, banning Rogue and bringing the Dragon BTK Priest makes perfect sense, because one thing that deck really struggles with is Valspine Slayers. Valspine Slayer absolutely ruins that deck.
Very true.
Now, if you're bringing a Dragon Priest and you're banning the Rogue, you're obviously targeting the Druid and the Priest, which makes me think that this is just kind of like a pretty aggressive mid-range Zoo, some kind of Prince Tempo Rogue, and the Druid for seohyun. It could have been big, could have been aggro. With seohyun's deck choices, there's honestly no way of telling. I think there's a decent chance it was actually a aggro token Druid.
Yeah, that is definitely possible. I mean, we saw that token Druid for Anamor just not work out the way that he wanted to. He never got the buffs that he wanted to, because that is a deck that can also just all of a sudden win by turn 4. But when it whiffs pretty hard.
Yep. If it whiffs, then you're just playing a bunch of 1/2s.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a deck with no card draw besides 2 Mark of Yashiraj. If you don't draw those, or you don't have a beast, then you just kind of
feels bad.
Stuck with maybe 5 cards. If those 5 cards are bad, you're pretty screwed.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, it looks like that's going to wrap it up for us on this early Salty Saturday edition. It certainly has been. It was short, but it was still entertaining.
Yep, it was pretty short but sweet. Always interesting to see. I mean, it's always interesting to just see sweeps, how someone has navigated to the point where they're capable of sweeping.
Very true. And so that will do it. Your champions of SHL this season are the Tiny Fin Fan Club. Don't forget, we are in the middle of the first round of playoffs of THL, which right now we have the Texas Stubbies in the Doghouse, as well as Team Swagoy and Zenergy going up against each other. And they are close matches. Team Swagoy is up 10-9 on Zenergy with one match left. So it's all going to come down to the match between Imposition and Tom Locke, which is going to be a great one. Texas Stubbies are up 10-7 on the Doghouse, but still 2 matches left there in the 4 and 5 seed, which will be awesome. In the other conference, you're going to have the Thermic Whims are up against Team Golden Wisp, and right now they are up. The Thermic Whims are beating Golden Wisp 4-0, but there are still 4 matches left to play in that series. On the other side of things, Dirty Mike and the boys is up 12-9 on Prep Coin Concede with 1 match left. So Prep Coin Concede, their backs against the wall, facing elimination. They need a big win out of Crackshot over Dirty Mike, and that is a tall order as well.
Crackshot. Yep, that's. I think that one's going to be that's a very important match. I think Prep Coin Concede. My team need a 3-1 or better result from Crackshot. Obviously, he's capable of doing it. It's Crackshot.
Obviously. Crackshot is a very good player, but so is Dirty Mike. So still plenty of action left here in the coming weeks. SHL might be over, but of course, visit TeamHearthLeague.com to take a look at the standings right now for the THL playoffs that are still happening. And reach out through there if you want to look at our Discord. You can find out more about the Team Hearth League. And, we are approaching the off-season, which means we'll have a bunch of really fun tournaments where really anyone can jump in and join, learn about the league, and learn about the players in it. So that's going to do it for this this fast edition of Salty Saturday. Rebobson, do you have any shout-outs that you want to make?
Shout out Prep Coin Concede, obviously.
Of course, you have to shout out that team. I'm going to shout out Swagoy as well. We got Tom Locke. We have one more thing. I didn't do us any favors by going 0-3, so I love to dig my teammates into a hole apparently for them to climb out of, so they can try and get us into the next round of the playoffs.
Yep, I fortunately won my THL match. Lefty deserves a shout out. He was a hell of a competitor.
That he is. Lefty is certainly one heck of a competitor as well. And so, that is going to do it for this edition of Salty Saturday. So, for Rebobson and everyone else at the THL crew that brings you Salty Saturday as well as Sunday Night Ticket and all of the other wonderful broadcasting editions that we have, we hope you all have a wonderful weekend. May your top decks be lethal. Have a good night.